Before we step into the darkness, do one thing, like this video. It may seem small, but it helps keep these stories alive. Subscribe, turn on the bell, and stay close, because you don't want to face what lurks in the unknown alone. And if you've lived through a real horror, tell your story in the comments. Who knows? It might just resurface here and haunt us all. Hidden Yellowstone truths rangers avoid sharing. Why is no one talking about this? Hi, my name is Joey Mathis, and I'm 44 years old. I've been a park ranger at Yellowstone for the past 2 decades. If you've ever been to the park, chances are you've enjoyed the trails, the geysers, the wildlife, and gone home with nothing but good memories. That's what we're trained to protect. But Yellowstone is more than what you see on the brochures. There's another side, one we don't talk about. It's not in the Ranger Handbook, and we're never officially briefed about it, but everyone here knows. We just don't say it out loud. I'm telling you this now because I can't keep quiet anymore. Too much has happened. People need to know. This story isn't something I've shared before, not with my colleagues, not with my family. I guess I've been waiting for the right moment, or the right person to believe me. And if you're reading this, maybe that person is you. It all started with a call over the radio, a standard missing ranger report. It was near the end of my shift, and I'd been patrolling the Lamar Valley, one of the most picturesque areas of the park. That night, the sky was clear, the stars brilliant against the pitch-black sky, and the air was crisp enough to bite. "Joey," came Karen's voice, crackling with static. "We've got a missing person report. Ranger Daniels hasn't checked in since noon. Last seen entering Death Basin." Death Basin. Just hearing the name sent a chill down my spine. Death Basin? "You're kidding me," I said, grabbing the radio. "Do I sound like I'm kidding?" she snapped. "He's been out there too long. Take a truck and check it out." "Roger that," I muttered, though every fiber of my being screamed at me to say no. Death Basin isn't on any tourist map. Hell, it's barely on ours. It's a restricted area, a pocket of wilderness too dangerous for hikers. The terrain is unstable, full of hidden geysers, boiling mud pits, and jagged cliffs. It's the kind of place that swallows people whole, and we don't usually bother looking for them afterward. Daniels was new, barely 6 months on the job. He must have gotten cocky, thought he could handle it alone. The drive out there was long and silent, the headlights carving weak paths through the encroaching darkness. The closer I got, the quieter the world became. No crickets, no owls, just the hum of the truck's engine and my own shallow breathing. When I reached the trailhead, I parked and stepped out, the cold air sinking its teeth into me. The forest loomed, an impenetrable wall of shadows, and I couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching me from just beyond the trees. I grabbed my flashlight and rifle. Standard gear. Not because I thought I'd need it, but because it felt like armor. "Daniels?" I called out, my voice bouncing off the trees. "You out here?" No response. I started down the faint trail, my boots crunching against the frost-covered ground. The flashlight's beam flickered, casting jagged shadows that seemed to twist and shift with every step. I kept moving, calling his name every few minutes, but the silence was deafening. And then, about a mile in, I saw it, his pack. It was lying by the base of a tree, half torn open, its contents scattered like someone had rifled through it in a panic. "Daniels?" I shouted again, my voice tighter now. No answer. I crouched down, shining the flashlight over the ground. There were tracks, his boots, leading deeper into the woods. But there was something else. Clan marks. Deep, gouging rakes in the dirt, as though something massive had been dragging itself alongside him. My stomach turned. I stood up, gripping the flashlight tighter, and followed the tracks. They led to a clearing, a space where the trees seemed to pull back unnaturally, their trunks warped and gnarled. And there, in the center, I saw it. His jacket. It was shredded, blood-stained, hanging limply from a branch like some kind of macabre flag. That's when I heard it. A voice. "Joey," it called, soft, almost a whisper. My blood ran cold. It sounded like Daniel's, but it couldn't be. It came from the trees, from everywhere and nowhere at once. "Daniels?" I called, my voice shaking. "Over here," the voice replied. The flashlight's beam trembled as I swung it toward the sound. Nothing. Just trees and shadows. "Where are you?" I demanded, stepping forward despite the icy dread crawling up my spine. "Help me," the voice said, fainter now, almost desperate. And then I saw it, movement at the edge of the clearing. A figure, hunched, its limbs too long, its eyes reflecting the light like a predator's. It wasn't Daniel's. I froze, my heart hammering in my chest. The figure didn't move, didn't make a sound. It just stared, its hollow eyes locked onto me. The flashlight flickered again, and in that split second of darkness, it was gone. I don't remember running back to the truck, but I must have. My legs burned, my chest heaved, and when I finally reached the safety of the cab, I locked the doors and didn't look back. By the time I reached the station, Karen was waiting for me, her face pale. "Did you find him?" she asked. I handed her Danielle's shredded jacket, my hand still trembling. "No," I said, "but something else found him first." Karen didn't ask any more questions, and neither did I. But I knew deep down, this wasn't over. Something is out there in Death Basin, and it's not done yet. You'd think after what I saw in Death Basin, I'd stay as far away from that place as possible. But that's the thing about Yellowstone. Once it's in your blood, it doesn't let go. It had been 3 days since the search for Daniels, and the station was quieter than usual. Too quiet. Karen avoided my eyes, and the other rangers whispered when they thought I couldn't hear. Nobody wanted to say it, but we all felt it. Something wasn't right. I tried to convince myself it was over, that whatever I saw in that clearing was a trick of the light or my own frayed nerves. But late at night, when the world was still and the wind howled through the pines, I'd hear it. The voice. "Joey." Soft, distant, just enough to make my skin crawl. By the third night, I couldn't take it anymore. I had to know. The station was empty when I left, the others either out on patrol or pretending to be busy. I grabbed my gear, flashlight, rifle, flare gun, and headed for the truck. Death Basin wasn't on the schedule, but I wasn't going as a ranger. This was personal. The drive was longer this time, the road stretching out endlessly under a moonless sky. The headlights carved weak tunnels through the dark, and every shadow seemed to shift and writhe. By the time I reached the trailhead, my hands were slick with sweat despite the cold. I stepped out of the truck, the crunch of frost underfoot loud in the oppressive silence. "Daniels," I called, more out of habit than hope. Nothing. I tightened my grip on the flashlight and started down the trail. The forest was different at night. The air felt heavier, thicker, like walking through molasses. The trees seemed to lean closer, their branches clawing at the sky. About a mile in, I found the first sign. It was a boot, half buried in the dirt, the leather torn and frayed. I crouched down, shining the flashlight over it. It was Danielle's, no question. Nearby, the ground was disturbed, like something heavy had been dragged through the underbrush. My stomach churned, but I kept going, following the trail deeper into the woods. The second sign was worse. A recording device, cracked but still functional, lying in a bed of moss. I picked it up, the weight of it unfamiliar in my hand, and pressed play. At first, there was only static, faint and crackling. But then came the voice. Daniel's here, base. Do you copy? My breath caught. The recording continued, the voice shaky, panicked. I think I'm lost. The trees, they're different. I swear I've been walking in circles. There was a pause, and then, wait, who's there? Joey? Is that you? My blood ran cold. Joey, the recording repeated, but this time the voice was wrong. It was deeper, distorted, like something trying to mimic a human voice but failing. The recording cut off abruptly, leaving only static. I stared at the device, my heart pounding in my ears. Daniels was gone. I knew that. But whatever had taken him hadn't forgotten me. The trail ended at the clearing. It looked the same as before. Twisted trees, bare earth, an eerie stillness that seemed to swallow sound. But this time, I wasn't alone. At first, I thought it was Daniels. He was standing at the edge of the clearing, his back to me, his posture slumped. Daniels? I called, my voice shaking. He didn't move. I stepped closer, the flashlight beam trembling in my hand. Daniels, I tried again. It's me, Joey. Let's get you out of here. Slowly he turned. My breath caught in my throat. It wasn't him. The figure had Daniel's face, his uniform, but the eyes were wrong. They were hollow, black pits that seemed to suck in the light. Its mouth stretched into an unnatural grin, too wide, too sharp. Joey, it said, the voice a grotesque echo of my own name. I stumbled back, raising the rifle, but the thing just stood there, watching me with that impossible grin. Why didn't you save me? It asked, the voice shifting, warping into something deeper, something ancient. My finger hovered over the trigger, but I couldn't shoot. Not yet. The thing tilted its head, as if amused, and then it moved. It didn't walk. It didn't run. It just shifted, one moment standing at the edge of the clearing, the next right in front of me. I fired. The sound shattered the silence, the recoil jolting me back. The thing staggered, its grin faltering for a split second, but it didn't fall. Instead, it laughed. A low, guttural sound that sent ice crawling down my spine. I fired again and again, but the bullets barely slowed it. Joey, it whispered, reaching for me with clawed fingers. I turned and ran, the trees blurring around me, the sound of its laughter chasing me through the dark. By the time I reached the truck, my legs were burning, my lungs screaming for air. I threw myself into the cab, slamming the door shut, and floored the gas. The headlights illuminated the road ahead, but in the rearview mirror, I saw it. The figure stood at the trailhead, watching me leave, its hollow eyes glowing faintly in the dark. When I got back to the station, Karen was waiting for me. You look like hell, she said, but her voice was softer this time, less sharp. I didn't answer. I just handed her the recording device and sat down, my hand still shaking. Play it, I said. She did, and when she heard it call my name, her face went pale. We didn't talk about it after that, but I knew one thing for sure. Death Basin wasn't just dangerous, it was alive, and it wanted me back.